Welcome to a special guest podcast of Flipping the Table. A periodic guest on our podcast, Dan Imhoff, is a painter, musician, and a writer probably best known for his books Farming with the Wild and The Farm Bill, A Citizen's Guide. He also hosts a podcast called Full Expression, which explores the question, what is creativity? In recognition of Farmworkers Day, which we celebrated on March 31st, we are sharing a major portion of Dan's conversation with painter Narsiso Martinez, who has become widely known for his beautiful portraits of farm workers that are painted on flattened produce boxes. His story of immigration from Oaxaca, Mexico, to the restaurants and farming fields of the West Coast, to college and art school is inspiring. Narciso's motivation for capturing the men and women who tend and harvest our crops is a mission born of love and respect. We thank Dan and his producer Megan Botel for sharing this full expression conversation. Enjoy the show.
Full expression. Explorations of the creative mind. With your host, Dan Imhoff. My guest today is Narsiso Martinez, a Los Angeles-based artist whose work brings visibility and dignity to the lives of farm workers, rendered not on traditional canvas, but on discarded produce boxes. Born in Oaxaca, Mexico, Martinez grew up in a rural farming community where children worked in the fields from a young age and resources were scarce, an upbringing that continues to shape both the subject matter and materials of his work. After immigrating to the United States, Martinez worked a series of labor-intensive jobs, from washing dishes to picking crops in the fields while putting himself through school. It wasn't until a community college art history class and powerful encounters with painters like Van Gogh and Millet that he began to see his own life and community as worthy of artistic representation. Today, his portraits of farm workers explore themes of labor, invisibility, class, and dignity. His work challenges traditional notions of fine art while elevating the people whose labor sustains everyday life. Martinez is exhibited widely and is represented by Charlie James Gallery in Los Angeles. Through his work, Narsiso Martinez has found a way to express what he couldn't say in the fields, using art as both a personal expression and a form of advocacy. Narsiso Martinez, welcome to Full Expression. What is creativity?
Thank you, Ben.
I wonder if we could start just by talking a little bit about where we are and why we're here.
We are at a residency. It's called Art Farm. I was fortunate enough to get an invitation to apply for the residency, and it's a long month residency in the middle of the woods, pretty much, here in Hillsburg, and
In Sonoma County.
In Sonoma County, yes,
California. Mm-hmm.
When I heard about it, I didn't think it twice, given that I live in downtown LA, and I sort of like needed a break from the concrete jungle,
from the hard urban environment of LA.
So I don't know. I feel like coming here was the right decision for a month, and I'm happy to be here.
Great. I mean, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful place. And you have your own studio where you've been working for the last 3.5 weeks or something like that.
That's right.
How has it been just transplanting yourself into a new environment and having to kind of get a new system going? Right.
So my work is about farm workers. So when I came here, I really wanted to understand what was happening with the farm working community here in Hillsburg. And luckily I got connected to people who have direct ties to organizations that deal with farm workers. And I was able to get some information, to get in. I met with some of the farm workers. I attended some of the event activities or events that they have in terms of learning how to grow their own food. And then from there, I sort of like thought about an idea for the artwork that I'm creating now.
Cool. Well, I like to start these conversations at the beginning. And I know that you were born in Oaxaca. And I think when I was watching your presentation, you said you came from a forgotten town. What was a forgotten town in Oaxaca?
My hometown in Oaxaca is called Santa Cruz Papalutla. It's a Zapotecan community and it's part of the Central Valley. And I was referring to my memories back growing up back then.
Yeah.
In the 80s, 90s. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure it has changed now, but back then it was really rough. It was really rough. I had so many questions growing up, even as a kid. And I had no answers. Community was really poor. I remember kids go to the fields at an early age to help their parents in the fields, and I would question that, like, why am I in the fields if I'm still a kid? Why do I need to go? I don't know. It's interesting because like I don't know.
Like how old of a kid?
Well, I was probably started sixth grade. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Fifth, sixth grade, they start going to the fields, getting their own couple of sheep to 10, so the family can have some kind of food for special events. Yeah, there was so many questionings growing up, and I don't know. I would turn to the church, right? My community was Catholic back then, and no answers. And I would question this idea of giving money to the priest for a service, and we don't have the money. We barely have food to eat. It was rough. No shoes, sandals most of the time. Shoes were for special occasions. No socks. I remember that. When kids would get older, like 18, 17, maybe younger, probably 15, because I remember like going to secondary school and I had to wear shoes because my school was in a different town. So yeah, it was really rough. I think I don't know.
What did your parents do?
My mom is a homemaker still, but I remember she would go to different towns, so like a bigger town, so even the city to wash laundry for people, I guess, for money. She would go and make tortillas for events at a different towns to make some kind of money. My dad was, he doesn't practice anymore, but he was a musician. Uh-huh. And I guess music was different back then because he was like a small little band, and I remember he would go for days, and we just asked, and we were four brothers and two sisters, so it was like a big family. I feel like I was in the middle of the crisis because my older brothers claimed that they didn't have it easy, but I feel like as the way I've been thinking about this is because my older brothers didn't have siblings, right? So my parents could provide for them, but by the time I came into the world, my parents had to provide for the older siblings because they have to go to school, blah blah blah, and then I had two little sisters, and then my parents had to provide for all of us, so it was really rough.
I'm reminded of a trip that I took. I was writing a book, and I went to Oaxaca, and it was an agricultural book that I was writing, and I was going to a coffee farm. And so I went to the city of Oaxaca and then to the cooperative. And then from the cooperative, they took me out on this mountain ridge, like maybe an hour outside of Oaxaca. And I was so poor. I think it was Hurricane Pauline. There had been a hurricane there that was just devastating. And this farmer came to meet me with a machete. And I remember the chickens had a better house than he had, because his house got wiped out in the hurricane. But, they needed the chickens. So like at least the chickens needed a house, right? And I remember walking along this mountain, agroforestry, coffee, not a plantation, but a coffee farm. And he was zinging that machete on the seam of his jeans the whole way. I was getting like so scared, man. I was just like farther and farther out in the jungle with this guy with a machete. Sure. I mean, of course, he was a nice guy, and it all worked out. Here I am. But I do remember that there was a lot of poverty there, and it was very, a very tough existence for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so how in the world did you find your way to the United States? How did you get there?
Well, for the same reasons. I feel like people get tired of like not having enough or not having the basics, My hometown only had sixth grade. So if anybody wanted to go further in his education, they had to go to a different town. That requires more money. But my parents could send me to a different town for secondary school, which is 7th through 9th. So I remember a lot of the young teenagers would come to the United States or other cities in Mexico, and then they would come back for the community celebrations, which is it used to be once a year. And they would bring nice shoes and nice clothes, and we wanted that, right?
Yeah.
We wanted to wear nice shoes, brand new pants, sometimes hats, and that's
dignity, just basic dignity,
basic stuff.
Yeah,
and we wanted that, like a bike, even a bike. They would come back with a bike, and we want a bike, we want nice shoes. So that's the inspiration that was the inspiration for a lot of teenagers to go and seek that in other places, either other cities in Mexico or other countries. So I came with my neighbor to the United States, thinking about the same thing, and here I am, not thinking that I was going to get this far.
And it's not an unusual story. There's a guy who's been working for me for the longest time from Michoacan. His dad, after he got through third grade, his dad said, okay, it's time to go pick lemons and go to work. And, he ultimately found his way up with family up to Northern California. And he's worked with our family for 30 years, and his children are citizens. His daughter has graduated from law school. They're the kind of people that, kind of make the American dream proud, really, just hoping for a better life and willing to work really hard for it.
Right.
So, okay, you found your way to LA, right?
Right.
Like the big city of LA, with your family or on your own? How did you make it?
I came on my own, but I had a brother. I had a brother here, so I joined my brother here. He used to live in Hollywood. Yeah, it was culture shock. Obviously, the people, the food, it was different. Now I can find Oaxacan food anywhere in LA, but back then it was very rare, or I didn't know. So it was really hard getting used to the food. No tortillas, so it was rough. But we get used to it, I guess.
And you were really determined to get an education.
Well, that was not the original plan. I feel like I just wanted to learn English. I think I was, I remembering turning on the TV, living with my brother, and there were some channels in Spanish, probably like one or two, but they were all the channels in English. And I wanted to know what was happening, what people were saying on the TVs. And I would go to the movies, and I want to know what the movies were about. And I remember in Mexico, I listened to a lot of rock in Spanish. I look for that music, and there's an English version, and I really wanted to know, and so that was the drive for me to learn English, and that's how it all started, really.
Well, and it's basically, that's how you get along in another country. You learn the language, and then start to break the code.
Right. Yeah. No. From there, I did the jump to high school. My teachers were really nice to me, and they made me believe that I was able to have an education. I got kicked out of 10th grade when I was in Mexico for failing too many classes. And so here I had to start all over. When I started taking high school classes, it was an adult school, so it was more like contracts. We study on our own, and then we take a test. So I really started from the ground up in order to learn how to multiply, how to divide. I had to use little rocks or little sticks. And I really understood it. And to me, it was really fun after that, because it's cumulative. So
yeah,
you learn one thing, and then you understand the second layer, and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's as soon as I got this idea that I could have an education, and that I was seeing the good grades that I was having, then I was determined to have a college degree. It's I want a college degree. I didn't know what, but I wanted a college degree.
I don't think that you studied art in your first college degree.
No.
You were going to community college. I believe you said you really liked math and biology. And I believe that you were working your way through schools. So you were working during the day so that you could go to school at night. And you did that.
Well, I would work Monday through Thursday, bussing tables, and then I would go to school Thursday. Wait, the other way around. I would bus tables Thursday through Sunday, and then go to school Monday through Thursday. So yes, that's how I managed to go through community college. I did work in different jobs before community college. Like I worked at a produce warehouse in LA, produce district. I work washing cars, washing dishes. I did a little bit of gardening. So yeah, I worked a little in a different plastic factory. I worked for a few years. I feel like I would change jobs according to my school schedule. I always had school as priority. And I was interested in math, like I said earlier. To me, it was like common sense. Like to me, it was like one result. You were always gonna have this result if you follow the steps. And
Yeah,
was, like to me, it was like okay,
there's an answer.
Math,
Yeah,
I understood it really well. And now, if you ask me, I wouldn't know. But back then, that was like the feeling. And even so, when I took biology 101, it was barely my first biology class, and I was fascinated by genetics. I think how like I remember those formulas of how to predict the sex of the baby or like the color of the eyes or the hair. It was, to me, it was amazing. It was more challenging. So it was like, oh, come on, I think I can study this. But so yeah.
Okay. And then out of the blue, you are in art history and you see Van Gogh.
Well, it was not out of the blue. I actually was chosen to apply for as a lab assistant for the biology department. And I didn't have documents, so I couldn't apply. And then I was like kind of disappointed. And I was like, oh, what do I do now? All these like dreams of having a college degree and then finding what I wanted to study and then nothing. It was disappointing, but at least I kind of wanted to finish the program. So I kept taking the requirement classes. And one of those, I don't think it was a requirement, but it was part of the elective in the
GED,
art history. I was like, oh, I want art history. So I took art history. That's when I learned about Van Gogh and Millet and all these other artists that were to me fascinating. But I think Van Gogh and Millet caught my attention because of their subject matter.
I believe you're talking about Van Gogh's paintings of peasants and people working in the hay fields and the potato eaters and stuff like that,
yes,
right?
Very familiar scenes from my hometown. And I was like, I want to paint like this guy. And I just want to paint my neighbors.
Okay, and had you been painting before, drawing before? Were you an artistic child?
I don't think I was. I mean, I like to draw, but I feel like liking to draw is one thing, and actually knowing how to draw is another thing. I remember drawing very wonky drawings, but I liked them. To me, it was like an escape, like a therapy almost. Like I would just stay in my own corner and draw. I never painted. Really, I wouldn't have enough money to buy paint or materials. Plus, we didn't even know what that was, it wasn't until I took the art history class that I really, that was my introduction to painting. I feel like I remember seeing maybe a drawing of Frida Kahlo. One of my older brother's notebook. He had a sketch of Frida Kahlo. I didn't know it was Frida Kahlo, but now I remember. But yeah, those were like my first memories of art. And then here, obviously, I was like, I want to know how to paint. So I literally spoke to my counselor and I was like, how do I learn how to do this? So he drew them up. These are the classes that you need to take in order to transfer to a regular college. So that's how that got me to art school.
And how did you find art school? I've recently, like in the last 7 years, I've been going to art school for, like 4 hours a day for many months at a time. I remember like learning to draw was often a frustrating experience, learning to just draw with a stick of charcoal and, drawing what you see rather than what you think you see.
Right.
What's really in front of you. And then learning chiaroscuro, lights and darks, and you learn to create volume and things like that. Is that the kind of traditional figure drawing and stuff that you took? Yeah.
Well, art school taught me different ways of doing art or media, different media. I went to Cal State Long Beach, and the very first semester I learned how to paint. Like I took painting 101, and I'm mixing my paint. I never worked with. It was amazing. Like
So
mixing
fun.
oil paint was like so cool. I don't know. I really enjoyed the process of learning. Obviously, drawing was a whole different. Like there was a technique on how to draw. Like before, I was drawing just I don't know. It's interesting because we see it, but we don't really see it. I don't know if that makes sense. But I learned about it in art school, and now I try to see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can imagine because I'm pretty regularly buying paints. I paint with acrylics, not oil.
That's difficult.
But the materials cost a lot, and my classmates talk about it, like it's not easy to just buy 4 really nice brushes and all the paints you need and the canvases and things. So how were you supporting this art education?
Well, up to community college, I was able to pay by busing tables, right? And all this high school, community college, I did all these kind of jobs and busing tables. But then when I went to regular college, that's when it got more expensive and I couldn't pay for it anymore. I even skipped one semester because I only paid for the first semester, and then the second semester I didn't have more money. So my brothers, who happened to be working in Washington State in the fields, are the ones who invited me to work there, and that's what I did. I went. That semester that I skipped, I went to the fields and I just worked. And
What were you doing?
the first thing that they put me to do was pick asparagus. That was really tough because it was my first crop. It was my first crop, and then I haven't been to the fields for I don't know how many years since I came to the U.S. So it was really rough because asparagus grow on the ground, so we have to like pick it on the ground and be bent over with a sharp knife, and then we have to stand up and then chop it at a certain length, otherwise they don't want it. And it was in the dark. It was like we started working like around 12, 1 in the morning. So
With lights?
With headlights, yes.
Uh-huh.
So it was really dark.
I see, because they wanted it to be cool.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we went to finish early because it was a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's like they give you like a certain amount of rows and then you have to pick it. It doesn't matter when you finish. But obviously it was better in the morning because like you finish early, the asparagus are fresh and not like wobbly. And also when it's hot, they grow really fast. And they don't want it. When they have sprouts, they don't want it.
Right.
So yeah, it was really rough. It was dark, a sharp knife, bending over. It was just rough. But I survived and it worked out.
And you saved some money so that you could go back to school.
Mm-hmm. I did not. Yeah, my brothers always like provided for me while I was in the fields, like food and couch.
Nice brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So grateful. And that's how I managed to. Obviously, there were a lot of sacrifices because the money I made barely covered tuition. Then I had to borrow some money here and there to for food and rent and stuff. Well, I was living with my brother at the time, so I didn't pay rent with my brother here in LA. So yeah, there was a lot of sacrifices, a lot of support, and so I managed.
Well, it seems like it was also the background for your art. So, I if I'm reading this right, and I don't know the whole chronology of what you've done, but at a certain point, farm workers became the subjects of your art. And not only that, maybe this idea of class struggle or classism of have and have not, and how invisible the farm workers are and how important they are.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I didn't get that until later on. Like even though I was going to the fields every summer, I was not fully integrated with the people who work in the fields. I didn't see what was happening around. I feel like I was there for the money. I would follow my brother wherever he would take me. I would just go there and pick the produce or whatever. Or we did a lot of thinning apples.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until the graduate program where I actually got it.
You started to really drill into this idea of farm workers as a subject that an artist could really tackle.
Yeah, I think it was the whole experience. I think working over the years and having all these experiences in the fields where I would be I would be called names or
What kind of names?
I don't know. It's just like
Doesn't matter.
yeah,
Very
it's just not nice.
not nice names.
Not nice.
Yeah.
And it was just like hard for me not to speak up, And so when I would see the same treatment to other workers, it was just heartbreaking because I couldn't say it myself. I couldn't speak up for myself. I couldn't speak up for the farm workers. And I don't know. I think eventually I went on my own to sort of like to know more about the stories. I feel like they were my coworkers, but we never got to talk because I was on my own. As soon as I was on my own, I was able to like connect, talk about things, and like the same sort of like struggles were my struggles. I mean, I was living in a trailer. A lot of the farm workers live in trailers and like they don't have like a proper AC or like a heater, A lot of them use the stove as a heater or like, but the few years I work in the fields, I got to know a bunch of instances where the trailers got on fire because of that. And it's like I'm proper way of living. I think it seems like there's no one to care about it. And like, and farmers just struggle.
Yeah. And it is all over the world.
For them,
Yeah.
It's just like hard. And
well, do you remember as an artist the first time you decided to make a portrait of a farm worker or do some kind of expression of this angst that you were feeling?
Here's the thing. Like when I went to the graduate program, I wanted to continue doing paintings about the working class and the wealthy, because that was sort of like the first and the last painting I did during undergrad. That was for the graduation show, where I did a painting about based on the the Occupy movement. Uh-huh. So when I went to the graduate program, that's sort of like I wanted to continue.
This is a graduate program at Cal State Long Beach,
right? And and to me, the working class were the farm workers. That's sort of like was the entry to painting actually farm workers. And because I was painting farm workers or thinking about painting farm workers, I kind of wanted to know more about farm workers. And that's when I sort of like went on my own and connected with the farm workers. And the first time I painted a portrait of a farm worker was not even one of my coworkers. It was a banana man a Google image, because I collected a banana box from Costco, and it was like in my studio for a few days until I got frustrated about critiquing my old paintings. So I went to my studio and just wanted to do what I used to do in the fields, which was sketch and do plein air studies on cardboard. And
so you're taking the produce box and turning it inside out, mm-hmm. and using the plain side as the medium for your portrait of a banana banana man.
It's interesting because when I was in the fields, the banana man. So I would cut out the edges and draw on the bottom part, like the good part, quote unquote. And then when I collected this banana box, I'm not sure, honestly, I don't remember why I didn't cut the edges, but I remember starting the drawing sort of like on the center. Maybe I would cut it out later, I don't know. But just the composition sort of like grew into the edges. And I just left it like that because I didn't want to sacrifice the composition and cut the edges. But yeah, I showed that to my class the following semester because we had to show work. And just like with the help of my committee, we sort of like hone in this idea of farm workers versus agribusiness.
Uh-huh. So farm workers versus agribusiness. And that first painting that you did, was it with oil paints too? Okay, so you're still painting with oil. As I'm thinking, these produce boxes, they often have kind of a waxy coating on the inside to protect the produce. Did you just paint on that, or did you have to modify that coating so that you could have a good surface to work on?
Well, I collect boxes. I don't discriminate whether it's from a different brand or this other brand. As long as it's produce, I collect them. And definitely every box has a different texture and finished surface. So it's kind of challenging to sometimes go around and figuring out how I'm going to do the drawing. Sometimes the charcoal doesn't want to adhere to the cardboard because of the wax surface. So I use a Sharpie or I cut with a knife through it so the charcoal can stay in there. So different boxes have different finish, and it's just like the idea of this challenge of figuring it out how.
Okay, so now you're coming up with this really cool idea that has what they may call prosody, like harmony, where the subject and the material, even the medium, they're the same. You're making paintings of farm workers on produce boxes, and this is kind of what you do in graduate school. This becomes kind of your style and your work.
Mm-hmm. I think what satisfied about the work was that I was able to speak about farm workers. When I would paint a portrait, I would maybe speak about who the person was, but also who the person represented. And that would give me the chance to speak my experiences in the fields, like what was happening with this person, or what was I going through when I took that photograph. You know what I mean? Like I was able to express these things that I couldn't say in the fields, in a public kind of space, even though it was school, but there was an audience, and at least I was able to say things that I couldn't say in the fields, and that sort of like liberated me a little bit. I don't know.
You're represented. You have gallery representation in LA, I believe.
Yes, I work with Charlie James Gallery based in Chinatown.
And how did you find them? How did they find you?
They reached out through Instagram. I remember saying like they want to do a studio visit. So they came to my studio in Long Beach. I didn't have a studio back then. It was just my living room. They invited me to be a part of a group show. And so I participated in that, and then they invited me to work with them.
Looking back on this journey, like, really getting an education, then getting an art education, an advanced art education, and really establishing yourself as an artist, does it seem like it's been a really, really long journey and you wouldn't recommend it to young people who have the same kind of dream? Or does it feel more like a dream that's come true, that was been based on hard work, and you can see that others could follow in your footsteps?
I believe in following our dreams, because we only live once, and what else are you going to do if you don't follow your dreams or your goals or whatever it is that you're passionate about? And I believe that you have to follow it. There's no other way. Otherwise, you just live by living. I don't know how to explain it, but there were a lot of sacrifices, but I never once questioned it. I think that what I wanted, which was to draw. I didn't make it my goal to have a gallery or like be a part of a museum show. That was not my goal. My goal was to keep painting, to be able to paint, to be engaged in conversation about farm workers, whether it was at a coffee shop exhibition or a gallery exhibition or a cultural center. My goal was to always like keep painting, drawing, speaking about farm workers, and challenging myself by trying to do what can I do with this like material, or what does it mean to draw on a plastic bag that contain bananas, or like all these different things. I think that's my goal. I be in conversation, keep creating. That was the goal when I went to school. Obviously, I feel like there is like an evolution of the goal, I guess, because I remember when my goal was to have a college degree. Like I didn't think beyond that. College degree, I can die, and I made it to my college degree, and now what? I didn't even get the chance to think about now what, because before I finished my college degree, I already have these projects on like for after graduating. So it's just like accumulation of things, and then you create more goals based on that passion that you have. Just continue doing it. I think that's how I live my life, and I consider myself a happy person.
I wonder, how do you know when a piece is done? How do you know when to stop? Because I kind of feel, speaking personally, I can take the juice out of something. I can take it too far, where that authentic spark that we were talking about earlier, that, is kind of like the marriage of your conscious and your unconscious, your subconscious, this really you can take it too far, and now it's kind of too perfect, and it doesn't have that spark.
Yeah, maybe there's two parts to that. One is like, are you saying what you want to say? And then are you happy enough with the illustration of what you're trying to say? I enjoy drawing, so I can keep drawing like forever.
What do you like to draw with? What's your favorite?
I use charcoal.
Charcoal.
I
love charcoal drawing.
Yes, I usually use like a quart of ink, like the underpaint, because cardboard is like very porous, and then the charcoal doesn't go through the pores, I guess. And it's
so you put gesso or something on.
I just go with ink. I sealed it after. First, I use ink so that the darker areas become darker evenly, and then I do charcoal
over top of the ink.
On top of the charcoal.
Oh wow!
And and then just creating those shapes and filling it in with different tones. That's the fun part. And yeah, once you're satisfied based on what your eye says to you, I guess I learned this in school too. Like you squint your eyes, or you like pass it like really fast, and then it should feel even, I think. And then that's it. Unless there's something you want to stand out,
right?
And then that's what you do. But yeah, I mean, there are different tricks to know when the piece is done, I guess. But more than anything, I feel like the piece will tell you, like, I'm happy now, leave me alone. And that's when it's done.
I really, really liked a couple other examples that you did besides the wrappers. I was thinking of like a vinyl print that you put on the outside of a building of your work, so people could see them publicly, and maybe people who couldn't, go to a museum or go to the gallery or wherever people find your work, and you make calendars. You're really trying to like get this work out there and especially get it into the hands or the view of the people who you're trying to, hold up.
Yeah, it's been really difficult. It shouldn't be. I feel like it shouldn't be difficult to bring the art to farm working communities. But I feel like it's the nature of like the job where they work, which is like far away, usually from the cities where there's no museum or a gallery. The place I worked in Washington State does not have a gallery and or a museum. So what I did was the vinyl prints. It's life-size vinyl prints. I did probably like 6 of them, and they're all like the local library, the park, the city hall, and I'm happy that people can get to see themselves in the art, even in that way,
Okay.
I guess a mural, it's like another option. But I don't know. It's just to me like cardboard.
The mural is a great option.
The cardboard somehow seems essential. I guess I could paint cardboard. I don't know. It's just like all these different ideas. But
okay, the Whole Foods bag. You have a farm worker portrait on a Whole Foods paper bag. Did they do that, or is that just you using a Whole Foods bag to do your art?
I collected the food bags.
Did you ask them if they would do it?
No, I didn't.
Because that's a whole other audience that really needs to see your work.
Right.
Like the people who are buying the food, the beautiful produce that has a whole story behind it that, isn't so visible.
Yeah. I did ask Trader Joe's if I could display some work, but they didn't let me.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, can you envision, maybe you got some new ideas when you were up here, since you were away from your studio in Long Beach and had the chance to kind of reflect. Can you imagine art that doesn't involve farm workers and produce boxes and the things that you've been working so long? It seems like every 10 years an artist has to sort of reinvent themselves somehow. Well, it might just happen over, just like people change,
But I feel like as long as there are farm workers struggling out there, I feel like that's what I'm going to do. Maybe the media could change, but not the subject matter. In fact, the more the more I learn about other farm workers. Like, this is like very like a small, tiny kind of group of farm working community that I'm speaking about. But I've been learning about the coffee bean pickers, the banana pickers, the cocoa bean pickers, like all these farm working communities that are like perhaps struggling. I don't know, because I don't, like it's weird in a different territory. I can't travel, so I don't know how to, what I mean? But that's one of my goals. Like I wanna experience, what is it like to pick cocoa beans? or bananas or coffee beans. Like what kind of people work there? What are their needs? Like, are they happy? Are they unhappy? How much do they make? What are their working conditions? I guess I could read, but there's nothing like being in the moment, in the presence of the actual action, and be able to transfer that into art. I feel like that's my next goal, And I just, like I said earlier, I'm just gonna make it my passion, and I'm gonna make it happen somehow. Hopefully soon.
Well, Narsiso Martinez, thank you very much for talking to me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate you're interested, and thank you for amplifying this conversation and bringing farm workers' presence and contributions to light. I really appreciate that.
And good luck. Never surrender.
Thank you.
That was an episode from the podcast Full Expression, hosted by me, Dan Imhoff. To hear more conversations like this one with writers, musicians, and cultural creatives from around the world, please subscribe to the show. Just search Full Expression wherever you listen to podcasts. The Full Expression podcast is a project of Watershed Media, produced by Megan Botel. Theme music by Dan Imhoff and Amadeo Mascardo. Intro music by Anthony Barria. Marketing support by the Other West Coast Production. Thanks for listening, for your subscriptions, and your comments.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Please share it with your friends and listen to our next monthly episode of Flipping the Table, hosted by Roots of Change, a program of the Public Health Institute, a nonprofit organization dedicated to building a healthier world.